cutting-edge business solution for various corporate clients. He's also the founder of Foresight BI, that's business intelligence, a Microsoft certified trainer, and has taught business intelligence and Power BI courses to thousands of individuals all over the world. Ahmed was also awarded Microsoft Most Valuable Professional under the Data Platform category for his technical contribution in the Power BI community in all over the world. So for today's topic, Ahmed is going to be taking us on index column using index column use case pattern in Power BI. So I'll hand over the stage to Ahmed Oyelowo. If Ahmed Oyelowo is in the house.
Actually, your stuff has been cracking, or your network has been cracking. Can you hear me, Temidayo?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. I can hear you very well.
Yes, but we are not hearing you clearly. Your network was cracking. But
okay.
no.
I'll start.
Not to worry. I was able to get all the recording. The thing is, I don't know why people are joining late. So I went to go and remind them that it's time.
Okay.
So Mr. Ahmed, I hope it's okay if I just chase up a few other people in like 2 minutes.
Okay, so it's fine.
I think we announced late on the main Power BI group. They are coming in gradually.
Okay.
Just quickly. Okay, I think they're already coming in. There's one other place we forgot to. On the main Power BI e-class group, we didn't send the announcement on time, Temidayo. I'm the one who had to send it just now.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So I had to just remind them. So just now. Okay. And there's one more place. So okay, so I think Mr. Ahmed, if it's okay by you, you can carry on, son. So I'm already reminding them.
So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. And obviously, I like to always talk about Power Query as usual, because I've realized that a lot of, bulk of data analysis work, the heavy it relies on the ability to properly prepare data. So today's topic is actually inspired from a couple of case studies that I've had to deal with either personally or through support or through people's questions. I've come to realize that there are certain times when the index column comes to save the day in a couple of occasions, and I would like to discuss at least some of the ones that I can remember as of today. So I'm going to share my screen shortly, and I think I have 3 or 4 use cases, and I hope I'll be able to complete everything within the time slot of 1 hour. So let me share my screen. Okay, help me confirm that you can see Power Query screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
All right, great. So let me just quickly give you an overview of what I'm going to try to, use index column in Power Query to save the days for. Okay, so the very first one is just an ordinary sorting. Of course, I call it ordinary, but in some cases it is not really ordinary. People can spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to sort something properly inside of Power BI. Of course, for a lot of people already, you understand how you can use index columns inside of your data to make sure that your visualization is sorted in a certain way. So we are going to start from that little one. Then we are also going to see how you can use index columns to be able to, carry out lookups. Okay, so like for this data set now, you see that, by the way, there is nothing that is really impossible when it comes to bad data and when it comes to data prep. You can see every possible scenario. Okay, so even though you might look at some examples here and they may seem dumb to you or they may seem impossible to you, trust me, these are scenarios that exist in real life, and these are actually called from real life scenarios. Okay, so on case number 2, I'm going to have to use an index column to carry out lookups when I clean this data sets properly. So when you look at data sets, you see that for every order ID that you have here, this person has probably purchased from 5 different categories, right? So that's binders, arts, phones, fasteners, and paper. That's the categories where the person has purchased from. And the amount for each one of them is what you have on the amount column here. Okay, so instead of you to have these records in different rows, we have kind of like put everything together inside single cells like this. So we'll have to clean this up. I'm going to see how index column is going to help us to solve this. Then we'll also see how you can also use index column to also, do a different kind of lookup. Like in this case, where we have daily sales like this, right? So each day like that, all the way down to the end of the data. And you probably just want to create a new column whereby you can now easily pick the sales for a previous day, something like that. Then we are going to look at another use case for index column, where you will leverage index columns to carry out selective replacements. So when I say selective replacements, what I mean is this. Imagine if row number 4 is supposed to carry Mick Brown. So instead of having Filina, we're supposed to have Mick Brown on row number 4. Of course, you understand we need to replace Filina with Mick Brown. Problem is, if you just replace Filina with Mick Brown like that, then every occurrence of Filina is going to be replaced, and you don't want that. So we'll see how the index column will help us to save that one as well. And finally, the last one is where you have budget data on an annual level, right? So for every sales rep that we have their annual budgets, okay, for each year, right? So you have a couple of years right here from 2018 to 2021. And probably your idea is to split this annual budget for each person to 12 places, right? Perhaps your data model requires that you keep this budget at a monthly level, because it's currently at an annual level. You have to make sure that you find a way to split it to a monthly level, so that for each year, for each rep, you're going to have 12 budgets, right? So we'll have to divide the numbers by 12 and split it evenly across 12 months for each representative. So that's the goal, and hopefully we are going to be able to achieve this within 1 hour. So let's start very quickly without wasting any time. You're going to start with the simple superstore data. So first, let me make sure that these other guys are not going to load, because the first use case is just as simple as making sure that we create something that we can use to sort our visual, right? So we have this superstore data here, and I'm going to use an example of, let's say, products category, for example, right? So product category, we have a couple of them. I have like, how many do we have? 3 product categories. So if I load this data, and then I'm going to try to create one visualization based on product category. So let's say I go to select this bar chart, and then sales by category. So you'll see that by default, the way Power BI has sorted this is to sort it in the order of highest to lowest, right? Now, the other way you may want to sort these as well is in the order of the name of the label that you are currently visualizing. So if I come over here to the top right, where I can see more options on that visual, and I say, you see, it's currently sorting descending based on the value of the sales, right? I can ask it to go and sort by something else. So when I go to sort by, you see that sales is what you have capitalized. But then if I go to change this from sorting by sales to sorting by category like this, then it's now going to sort in alphabetical orders. Okay, and I can also direct that alphabetical order to either be descending or to be ascending like that. So that's the only way I'll be able to sort by the labels itself, by the category itself in alphabetical orders. Perhaps this may not be how you want to visualize your data. Possibly, like in this case now, there is no way office supplies will ever come first, right? So office supplies can never come first. If I sort by sales, then office supplies comes first as the lowest one if I'm sorting descending order, right? But maybe the kind of arrangement we want is to always see office supplies first, followed by technology, and then followed by furniture, right? So office supplies, technology, and furniture is what you need to see, okay? So I'm only using this very simple example of three values. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to Power Query. So let's remember what I want to sort by. Office supplies first, followed by technology. That means the lowest one, by the highest one, and then followed by furniture, right? It's not really about lowest or highest. It's more about the orders in which we want to visualize. For certain reasons, it can happen that when you present your visuals, you are expected to display your items in certain orders, right? So we want supplies, technology, and furniture. So I'm going to go back to Power Query. And what I'll do is I'll just quickly create a new table. And let's call these categories. So what I need to do is to make sure that I create these categories and I add a sort order numbers for each one of them. Since I want office supplies first, so I need to have like office supplies right here. And then I need to now have here, right? So to say the office supplies is number one. So this is supposed to be like a sort order, right? So office supplies first. I need technology next. So that's technology. I need to be sure my spellings are correct. And that's supposed to be like 2. And the last one is furniture, which is supposed to be 3. Okay, now it's easier for you to do something like this because we only have 3 values. So now when you have more than 3 values, when you probably have as many as 10 or 15 or even more than that, and it can become very difficult for you to gather all that information like that and start to create the sort order that you want. Okay, so we are going to assume that this 3 is actually not 3. It's probably like 30. So I'm going to delete this sort order that I'm creating here. That was too easy for me to do. I want to assume that it's not really that easy. So I'm deleting all that and I'm saying this table name is the category table. So when I click OK, I have my single column in that order. Office supplies, technology, and furniture. And we're assuming that it's not 3, right? We're just assuming it's like 30. So I need to create the numbering in an automatic fashion. I need it to automatically number for me. So I'm going to have to come to Add Column tab and then select Index Column. And I'll say select, I'll choose which of the indexes do I want. Do I want my index to start from 0 or do I want it to start from 1? So I want this one to start from 1. I'm going to say start from 1 and I automatically have that index from 1 to 3 like that. And I can easily now go to home in Power Query and this data and apply. So now, if I go back to my data view inside of Power BI, you see I have my Superstore data, which is where I'm visualizing from, and I have my category table now that I'm going to use to try to sort my visualization. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to select this categories column, and then you see a button that says sort by column right here, and I'll say I want this column to always be sorted by the index. So whenever I'm visualizing, I always want to see office supplies first, technology next, and furniture. So sort that column by index. Then I'm going to go to model view, because right now, what I'm going to be using to visualize now is this particular one that I've already directed to always sort by index. So I will no longer visualize by the category I have in my Superstore data, in the full data itself. So for me to do that, I'm going to go to my model view and make sure I create a relationship between these two tables based on category. So I can easily drag category from here, use it to connect to this one, and have those two tables connected like that. Then if I go back to my report view, I can remove this category right now, which is coming from the Superstore data. I don't want that one, so I just use this X mark to cancel that. And I'm going to go and pick my category from my category table. So bring category here to axis. And then you see that the sort order right now is still based on ascending order from lowest to highest. And that ascending order is based on the sales numbers. And I want to sort it by the categories itself based on my definition of categories. So I'll go back here to click more options, go to sort by, and I'm going to say, don't sort by sales, rather sort by categories. So when I say sort by categories, you see I have the order icon. So office supplies, technology, and furniture. Case number 1 completed. Okay, now let's go to case number 2. Back to Power Query. So case number 2, so we've seen how you can just add an index column and use that to sort your data. Now I want to see how you can use index column to look up information inside of Power Query. How index is going to help you to perform a lookup. Okay, so we have this table, and the objective of this is to make sure that every category right here is going to go into a different row, and every amount is also going to go into a different row. So the ideal output that we require is something that should look like this. They use this whiteboard. So we need something that's going to look like this. You're going to have your order ID. So let's say order ID is first column. Then on second column, you have category. Then on the third column, you're going to have amounts. Okay. So the ideal output that we require is the first order ID is something 199. So something 199. And the very first category under that is binder. So I need binders here. And then I need the first amount, which is the amount for binder, which is 609. So 609 is that first one. Then I'm going to have to go to pick the next category, which is arts. So next category is arts, still under the same order ID, the same 199 order ID. And I'll have to pick the value for that one, which is 5.48. Okay, so 5.48. So if you think about what I'm doing, what I'm basically doing is I'm going to have to split this category into different rows, and I'm also going to have to split this amount into different. Now, since I have to split two different things into different rows, the quickest way for me to do that is to, first of all, replicate this query. So I'm going to right-click on this split to rows, I'm going to duplicate that query. So now I have two of them. And what I'm going to do is, for the first one, I'm going to remove amounts. So remove amount from the first one. Then from the second one, I'm going to remove category. So one table carries amount, one table carries category. So let me just rename this one now. as, we name this query as category. So this one carries category, while this one now carries amount. This one carries amount, okay? Now, I can easily go to the category table and do a right click on the category column, go to split column, and I'm going to say it should split by delimiter since I want to separate it at every occurrence of the pipe, right? So split column by delimiter, and my delimiter is a pipe. So I need to go to look for pipe on my keyboard. That's pipe. Then I have to click on advanced options and ask it to split into rows. So I'm going to select rows and I'm going to click OK. So now I have that one correctly, right? So binders, art, phones, fasteners. If you remember, before the splitting, what did we have before the splitting? We had binders, art, phones, fasteners, and paper. After the splitting, we have binders, art, phones, fasteners, and paper in that order. Okay, which means that when I go to split the amount, remember that the first amount is for binders, art, phone, something like so the other time. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the amount side. So right click on amount, go to split column by delimiter. My delimiter is custom and it is a pipe. And I'm going to come to advanced options and say split to, then click OK. Okay, now I have that one. So my first table, my category table has 13 rows. My amount table also has 13 rows. Now I need to bring everything back together. 609.98 belongs to binders. The second amount, 5.48 belongs to arts, and so on and so forth, right? So it's just, arranged in that order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add index column to both tables. Okay, so go to category, do add column, and put an index column from 1. Repeat the same thing on amounts. Index column from 1. Now I can easily identify what is for what, right? So now I'm going to have to bring the two tables together as one single table. And how I'm going to do that is to merge the two tables together. Okay, so now on merging the two tables, I'm going to make sure that I use the index as my identifier. So it is the index that is going to identify on both tables what ties to what, right? So number 1 on both tables is going to bring the two number 1s together, which is 609 here, and also binders here. But 2 here is art. It's going to bring that art together with number 2 here, which is 5.48. So to do that, I need to do a merge. So if I go back to and go to merge queries, I can use any of these two options. So let's just use the second option, merge queries as new. I'm going to say that I want to merge amount 2 to what? Category 2. So these are the two tables, right? So on my output table, I need to have order ID, category, order ID and category and amount. That's what I need to have, right? So first, I'm going to have to select what's going to identify the right thing from the two tables that are merging together. That's the index, right? So I will click on index on the first table, click on index on the second table. Then I can click OK. Then I'm now going to expand this category. So if you see, I already have order ID, I have amounts. All I need to bring now as a new column is the category. So if I expand this, I can now bring category in. And that's exactly the output that we need, except now this index is no longer required, so I can easily delete that index. And that's how we are able to clean that data set as expected. So that's number 2. We've looked at 2 of them now. We've looked at sorting, looked at lookup. Okay, now I'm going to display another example of lookup using number 3 file. So in this case, like I explained earlier, we're trying to make sure that we want to try to get, let's say, the sales of a previous day. Okay, that's sales of the next day. So what I've expected to have here now is, if I do a simple dummy of that table, you have order dates and then have sales. So I want to have something that is going to have previous day sales. So previous day, right? So that previous day basically is to ensure that you are picking the previous row. Now, based on these data sets, you only have one sales value for every date. Okay, so one sales value alone for every day. So this is going to work. This method I'm going to show now is going to work for a scenario like this. So I'm just trying to pick a previous day. Okay, so now the first day is on the 3rd, and the sales amount is 16.4. And what I'm going to have my previous day now is 0 because there's nothing on the previous day. Then the second sale is on the 4th, and the amount is 11.78. So for previous day here, I need to get 16.4, and so on and so forth. So just always pick the previous days from the sales column. That's what we want to do. Okay, so we are still going to use lookup to achieve that. So the idea behind that is, the quick idea behind it is, if I come to add column and I go to index column, I'm going to add two indexes or indices, right? Should it be indexes or should it be indices? I'm going to add two index columns. One is going to start from 1, like this, while the other one is going to start from where? It's going to start from 0. So now I have two, one starting from 1, another one starting from 0. Okay, now the next thing is to create my merge. Okay, so I'll come to home. How do I create merge again? Go to home and go to merge queries. So I'm going to use another, let's even complete everything on the same table. So I'm going to use merge queries, the first option this time around. And my first table is the daily sales table. Guess what the second table is? Second table is exactly the same table, right? So exactly that same table. Okay, now the point is this. On my outputs, I want to create a new column called previous day, whereby the sales of the previous day, in this case, the sales of the 3rd, which is 16.4, is what I'm going to have on my previous day. Now, when you look at the two index columns I've created, you see that the first index has 16.4 as number 1, but on the second index, it is 0, right? Which means that if I try to look up this index number from this other side, what do you think is going to give me? That means I'm trying to look up this index number now from this other side. Will it give me, is it going to give me the sale of the first day or the previous day, or is it going to give me the sale of the next day? What do you think? Sale of the first day or sale of the next day? What's going to happen? Can someone share in chat or something? So let me display it again. If I do this, please give me the sale of the first day, or will it give me the sale? Will it give me the sale of the next day, or will it give me the sale of the previous day? What do you think? Okay, so yeah, next day. Apparently, if I go by this, what is going to try to happen is this index for number 1, go and look for number 1 on this other side. And number 1 on this other side actually falls on the next day. So I'm not going to try to use something like this. So instead, I'm going to try to do it the other way around. So I can say something like this index should look up against this index. Right? If I do this, will it give me the sales of the previous day? because number one here now is going to see this one. So by the time I return the new column here, 16.44 is what's going to appear under this row because that's what matches with 1. Okay, so I'm going to use OK right here. Then I can expand this column and I want to bring in sales from there. And when I click OK, you see that, let me just remove the 2 index columns. So you now see that the sale on the 4th, okay, I think there's something about my merging option. So the sale on the 4th, let me go back to my merge queries and try to edit what I have there. So all from first, matching from second, right? So that's supposed to be correct. From first, matching from second. Okay, so perhaps because I'm using the same table to join, I can see that by the time I expand this table, first row basically disappears. That's not supposed to happen. Probably come back to check why that's happening. But the idea is when I expand this column, see that if I click on this cell that has the table for the first one, see that the result for the first one is empty. There is nothing there because there is no previous day. If I click on the second one, we're going to see that it's showing 16.448. So this 16.448 on this second day is actually the sale for the previous day. So when I expand this, expectation is that I still have my first day. So my first day currently now has disappeared. If we have some time, try to come back to figure out why that one disappeared. But from what you can see here, the sale of on the 5th is now appearing right here on the 6th, right? So we can easily rename this column as previous day, right? So I can rename this sales point 1 and just call it previous day sales. Okay. And then, of course, I've removed these other 2 columns, and you can always see the sale of the previous day, which can help you to do something like daily variance. So I want to do daily variance now. I can select the sale of today, select the previous day sales, go to add column, and under standard, I can say subtract. So what am I subtracting from what? Let's see which one happens. So if I say subtract like this, then I can see -4. Yeah, that's the correct one. So this is going to stand like our variance. So this pattern is what you can always use to retrieve a previous row data. Just add 2 index columns. Let one start from 1 and let the other one start from 0, so that you will have that -1 gap, and you can leverage that -1 gap as your opportunity to retrieve a previous. So that's 3, sorting and lookups with 2 different examples. Now let's go to number 4. So on number 4, we are going to try to do a selective placement, right? So I want to replace, like I said earlier, I want to replace number 4 from Felina. I want it to be McBrown. For some reason, it's possible that maybe there has been a typographical error somewhere, and maybe for whatever reason, you just want to ensure that the Felina you see on row number 4, that data actually belongs to McBrown. Now, if you try to do a right click on this column and you use place values, saying you want to replace that name, which is FHPHILLINAOBER. You want to replace this guy, MICK Brown. By the time you click OK, you see that every occurrence of this Felina is going to become McBrown. 2, 3, and 4 are also going to change, but that's not what we want, right? We don't want 2, 3, and 4 to change. We only want number 4 to change. So that replace values is not going to work for us just like that. So what we're going to do is bring in our helper, which in this case is index column. So I'm going to add an index column from 1, because this will now help me to identify the exact row that I'm trying to replace. And the exact row I want to replace is row number 4. So what I'll do is I'm going to go to still on add column tab. I'll try to create a conditional column such that anytime the conditional column hits row number 4, let it just replace this, whatever it finds in that row number 4, let it just bring it out as big brown. Otherwise, just return what you have, right? So since I'm only changing 4, so I'll do a conditional column, and my new column, I can say new customer, for example. I can just leave it on custom. Eventually, I'm going to have to delete the original customer column since I'm replacing it with something else, whereby row number 4 now belongs to Mick Brown. Okay, so the idea behind the conditional column now is to say if what? If the index column equals to 4, right? So anytime you are checking and you see that the index column is number 4, then I want you to just type out Mick Brown, right? So if index is number 4, the output value should be Mick Brown. If not, that's the else side of the if. If not, just give me what you have inside customer name, right? Just return back what you have. So I'm only selectively replacing one item. So I can come to the else side of things, click on that drop down, and I'm going to say, I'm not really entering any value in particular. I just want to retrieve all the values inside a particular column, right? So I'm going to change this option to select a column, and then I can use a drop down to say I want to select whatever is inside customer name, right? So if you read the formula again, we're saying that if the index column is 4, so on the new column I'm creating, on this new conditional column I'm creating, for index column 4, I'm going to see Mick Brown there on this new column. But for every other thing that is not 4, I'm going to see whatever is inside the customer name. So I can click OK, and then we'll have our results. So you see that the filling maintains itself on 2 and 3, and every other place it might have appeared. The only places it has now changed is number 4. So we have used index column yet again to our advantage as our helper for selective placement. I can only now change this one to data type or text. You always have to select your data types, and index column is now useless, right? So it's done with its job, and now delete index column. Thank you very much, index column. So that's number 4. Recap. Number 1, we tried to sort by creating index. Number 2, we did a lookup, whereby we had to split our table into 2 first. But in order for us to bring everything back together, we had to create lookups on both of the split versions of the table so that we can bring them together and they can align properly for a row. Then on number 3, try to use index column to retrieve a previous row by making sure that we create 2 index columns, one starting from 1 and the other one starting from 0, so that when we're about to retrieve, one can always see the other one on the top and bring that one for us, right? So that's like retrieve the previous one, because when you have 2 index columns, one starting from 0 and another one starting from 1, just like this, right? This one starts from 0, this one starts from, when you want to do your lookup, you want to look for 1 from the other side. So when you look for this 1 on this other side, you can easily bring this 16.448, which is your previous day. When you look for 2 on this other side, you can easily bring it 11.784, which is your previous day. Then on number 4, try to use index column again to our advantage by making sure that we first of all create index for every row on this data so that we can selectively do a replace value for only one of the rows. It can be several of the rows as well, right? So say, for example, if the rows I needed to replace are, let's say, 4, 6, and row 9, for example, Then what I would have done instead of that is if I remove this all the way from conditional. So let's say I'm replacing 4 with Mick Brown. I'm replacing 9 with Mick Brown and maybe 13, right? So 4, 9, and 13 I'm replacing with Mick Brown. I can still do my conditional column again and say if index equals to 4, then that should be Mick Brown. I will add another clause. Else, if index equals to 8, then the same Mick Brown. I can add the third clause. If index equals to row 13, then that is also Mick Brown. Every other person else, just give me what you have inside that column of customer name. So still, I can still leverage the same thing to even do more of that selective placement. So when I click OK now, I expect 4, 8, and 13 to change to Mick Brown. So if I click OK, check row 4, you find Mick Brown. Check row 8, you find Mick Brown. Check row 13, you find Mick Brown as well. So that was the fourth and the final one, I think, is the annual budget. This one a little bit tricky, and it's something that I had to do a lot of trouble to figure out how to resolve something like this. Okay, so the point is you have one single file for budgets, and the budget has been set at an annual level, which means for every year and for every sales rep, you have just one single budget value. But for whatever reasons, you need to analyze your data at a monthly level. So probably want to compare budgets on the monthly level, right? You want to compare your actual on the monthly level versus budget. So you already know that the annual budget, you have to divide it by 12, right? And you probably be having a fixed number for every. So first thing is, I'm going to divide this budget by 12 first. So come to transform, select the budget column, and then under standard, I'm going to use the divide option. So divide this by 12. Click OK. Okay. So divided by 12 now. The next thing I want to do is what? For every year, I need to have 12. Since I've divided this by 12 already, so I need to have 12 months for every year. So I have to find a way of making sure that I replicate this file 12 times. How easy is that going to be? To replicate this file 12 times. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go to home. And there are two ways to increase your data sets. Either you increase on columns or you increase on rows. When you increase on columns, we have already seen how to do that, right? You bring in more columns. That's when you use merge queries. If you want to increase on rows, you are going to use append queries. So the objective now is I need to make sure that I stack this same thing repeatedly 12 times. So I've come to append queries. I'm going to use, maybe I should use a new query file. So let's use append queries as new. Then, because I want to replicate 12 times, I won't use the option 2 tables. I'm going to use the option of 3 or more tables, right? And what I'm appending is annual budget, 12 times. So I'll keep on clicking on annual budgets until I get 12 of it. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So hopefully that's exactly 12. Then I'm going to click OK. Okay, now you see that on the original budget file, we have 56 rows. So if you check, you see 56 rows at the bottom. Now on the appended one, we now have 672 rows because I've multiplied that by 12. So now for every sales rep like this, and for every year like this. You are going to see this 2018 organic is going to appear 12 times, right? So 2018 organic will appear 12 times. Now, the next objective is I need to make sure that I count that occurrences in such a way that the first occurrence will tell me that I'm going to use that one for January. The second occurrence, I'm going to use it for February. The third one, I'm going to use for March, and so on and so forth. Okay. So what I'm going to do to achieve that objective is that first, I need to group my data so that every rep can have only 12 occurrences per year. So every rep will have 12 occurrences per year like that. So the first thing is, so I'll select the first column and select the second column as well. And then I'm going to say that I want to group it. So if I go to transform, I will see by. So I'm grouping by these two columns. Next thing is, how do I want to group it? I'm going to say that I'm not really doing a calculation for this group. I just want to group them together, right? So I can leave this new column name as count for now. It doesn't matter to me. So for the operation, whenever you want to group naturally, if you are grouping something, you have 5 and you want to group them into 1, of course, it means you need to have an operation that will give you the final number when you group. So if you have like 5 cities, for example, like you have Lagos in 5 places, each of the 5 places of Lagos has a number, and you want to collapse the Lagos into a single one. So if you are collapsing Lagos into a single one, you need to probably do an operation that will give you the number that comes with Lagos. Either you count Lagos and say Lagos is 5, or you sum up all the numbers and say Lagos is now 50 because I've now grouped it. But in this case, we're not going to group it. We are going to use an operation that selects all the rows. So I'm not grouping. I just want to select all the rows. Then I'm going to click OK. So when I do this, you see that from 672 that I had before the group, if I go back to the previous step, you see I had 672. Now, after grouping, I'm back to 56, because for every sales rep or for every row like this, I've basically created a group that now has all the occurrences of that particular rep, right? So you see that what we normally use to identify data type the column is the icon you have beside that column. Like this column contains numbers, that's why you have 1, 2, 3. This one has dates, that's why you have ABC. Now this one has a table, that's why you have a table. You have that grid. If I click not on the name of the table, but inside the cell where that table is, when I click inside this cell like this, I'm going to see a preview of what that thing looks like. So on the first row, you see I just have organic, 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 and if I do a count, this should probably be 12 in numbers. Shouldn't be more than 12 in numbers, right? And then if I go to the second row again, to click inside that cell, I'm going to see Steve Pepple as well appearing another 12 times when you do a count. Now the objective is I need to create an index column inside this table such that if I see the year, I see the rep, I see the budget, I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12. That's the objective. So what I'm going to do is let's go and copy. How did we create index columns previously? If I go to one of the places we created an index column, this guy, nope, it's not there. Category table. You see, we used this function. The function that was used to create the index column is called table.addIndexColumn. And then when you use table.addIndexColumn, you have to supply the table that you are adding the index column to. Now, when you supply the table, of course, the name of the column you are creating newly, because we are using table.addIndexColumn. I think somebody's mic is unmuted.
Can you please mute your mic, everyone? Apart from Ahmed.
So I was explaining. The function is table.addIndexColumn. you have to specify the table you are adding a column to, of course. You also need to specify the name of the column you are adding. Then you want to specify this index column. Where does it start from? It starts from 1. Now, when it starts from 1, how does it increase? Is it 1, 3, 5, 7, or is it 1, 2, 3? It increases by 1. And then the data type of the new index column you are creating. So what we're just going to do is I'm just going to grab this entire formula like this. You should see it. Then I'm going to go to my append. Then I'm going to create a custom column. So add column, add custom column. So let's say we leave the name of the column as custom. I'm going to paste that formula right there. Table dot add index column. The only thing that is going to change is the table we are adding a column to. So I will quickly remove this change type. That's not the table. Table I'm adding to is the count. That is this one. Remember, this one contains tables now, right? So that's the table I'm adding to. Then I'm going to click OK. And then you have a new column again. If you click inside the cell for the first one, guess what you are going to see? You're going to see it's year, rep, budget, and the index. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 12, I hope. Yeah, all the way to 12 like that. Okay, now this one is now useless to me. I can delete this guy and I can expand this one. And all I need from it is the index. That's all I need. Say, okay, I need the index and budgets, right? I need index and budgets. I need the index and I need the budgets. So now you see that organic, I can see 1 to 12. And then the next guy, 1 to 12. Of course, the budget is fixed for every month, right? So the next thing is, because you want to create dates, this is probably, you probably want to use this one as month number, right? So maybe where I created my added index, yeah. So where I created my added index, I probably want to change the name from index to maybe month number. Then columns, and I did my expansion. Okay, I might have tampered with something. Let's just, what did I expand here? Expanded column, right click and edit settings. It's month number I'm bringing now, so no more index. It's now called month number. Change the name. Okay, so now I have that, and this is numbers, whole number. Then I can even now use this to generate a date column, right? Because eventually you want to connect your monthly data to a calendar table, to a date table in your model, so that you can easily compare sales at monthly level from the budgets, right? So this is supposed to be a decimal number. Always change those things, they're important, right? So now if I do another custom column, I'm just going to create a column called dates. And I will write a custom formula, hashtag dates, open brackets, hashtag dates, open brackets. The first thing I need to supply is the year. That's my year. The next thing I need to supply is the month. And my new index column is my month, comma, and the last thing I need to supply is the dates. I'll just put 1. So the first of every month. So when I click OK, I have dates. January, February, March, April, May. Of course, if you change this date to dates, you can create a column like this and do date drop down, go to month and say name of, have your January, February, June, up to December. So, and that is supposed to be the final one for how you can use index column. Of course, there's going to be a lot of different other ways you can use it. As far as I'm concerned, I think there are even more ways I've used them before, but so far, these are the only ones I can quickly remember that I think you can always use. And like I said, and like we called the topic of the webinar is patterns. So when you see people do things like this in Power Query, using a particular example, there's going to come a time when you need to do something not exactly the same thing, but something similar. And all you have to do is try to remember some of these patterns and try to apply it to your own case. Thank you. I can take questions.
Wow. Ahmed, I really learned a lot. I really learned a lot. So any question in the house so far? Any more questions?
Good evening. Are there no shorter ways to do this, or it must be this long pattern?
So I think my answer to that is that in Power Query, there are always multiple ways of solving any particular scenario, and sometimes it has to do with the inspiration that comes to you. But a lot of times it has to come with the inspiration that comes to you. So far, what the inspiration that has come to me for something like this, after so many hours of struggles, is this one. This is the only inspiration that has come so far. I don't have any simpler way, of course. I'm not ruling out the fact that there was going to be simpler ways. If we dig deeper and probably see how other people do certain things, you might find simpler ways to resolve this. But so far, this is like the only way that I am inspired to use.
Wow.
So we can't say that it's not, of course. You can never say that it's not. There are always other methods.
Okay. So any other questions? Anyone? Okay. Me in particular, I prefer using the merge and append. But I think I learned a lot. I still saw we did some newer methods today. I was like, wow. I'll definitely practice it again.
Yeah. So the merge and append method usually comes in very handy, of course.
Yeah.
So that one really is always helpful. Especially when you want to ensure that you maintain the same row and you don't mismatch your data.
Yeah, true.
So you have to merge and use index.
Wow. Like I was just jotting all through. I was like, yeah, who is there? Who is that? Someone's trying to speak now. Which person? Any questions so far? If you can also text and type your question in the chat box if you don't want to speak out loud. Going. Okay. So Ahmed, I would like to ask you like 2 questions. That's question we'll ask every of our webinar guests so far. I know that I'm sure they would have asked it before. So the first one is, can you just tell us your journey, how you started your data analysis journey to get to Power BI, to your Power Query journey, everything in general. Can you just tell us how you decided it in particular?
Sorry, can I? So I want to ask about one method that, while you are working, I was thinking it in my head, but I'm like, maybe also I can share. Okay.
Did I share my screen?
I was thinking maybe I should not. I'm looking at timer, but the method that came to me was, okay, what if, I create like, okay, let me just try and see if I can just show the beginning and you can see if maybe that method might work.
Okay.
What you are doing, I was like, wow, this is something I would also like to try my hands on. So as you are doing, I was like, okay, if I'm trying to do this, what approach will come to me? And so this was the approach that I tried. It's not complete too. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so what I did was I tried to create a mini, something like what you did. Then what I now did was, okay, there is one Excel stuff we did, and I looked at it that it might work. So what if I have, the months? So I stopped at 10 because it was getting too long. So I said, what if I have the months this way? Then I merged it to, I merged that one back into here. Zoom my screen. So what if I merge it back into here and expand and on pivot and move and on pivot? So I was like, well, let me just. So that was what I was trying to do.
Yes, so this definitely works as well. And trust me, as long as you are really not writing any code, I want to assume that that's usually being seen as the simpler method to do things, obviously. So, and as much as possible too, I try to run away from writing anything in Power Query. So if you can afford it using the simple user interface, then that's always like a lifesaver as quickly as possible. You only have to go and run codes when you are unable to think, you're unable to be inspired by anything from the UI. So like you now, you got inspiration very quickly. So as a boss.
No, I was just like, this is a very cool one, oh man. Let me just say I'm not watching what you are doing. Let me think of something. But thanks, sir. Just say let me check
Yeah. So Fatah is saying that what if you have a very large data set? Won't this throw up performances? Obviously, especially when you have to work with table related transformations in Power Query, they are usually heavier and can be very, very slow. So you only have to pray. When it comes to preparing data, it's not only about prep, you also have to pray as well that you don't meet one that is going to wound you. There's nothing you can do about
it. Okay. I mean, thanks a lot for that. So, another question. I can see some new people here. Another question so far. Okay, I can remember the last time you came here, you talked about parameter management. Today, now you're talking about column pattern. I was like, wow. I actually learned a lot from the last one. Today, now it's like another entire section entirely. So, Ahmed, I said I was going to ask you two questions. Basically, I want to ask all our guests. Yes. So the first one, I've already said already, I would love you to share your experience, your journey, your data analysis career so far with us in this community.
Yeah, so I would say that my career started after my banking stints. I had 4 years in one of the Nigerian banks then before I moved into consulting, and trust me, it wasn't easy at all in consulting because you have to learn many things at the same time. And one of the things that really had to happen to me was me failing ACCA a couple of times. I think once. After that failure, I never wrote ACCA again. So at the point when I joined consulting, of course, you guys know that I knew nothing about even Excel. I didn't know jack about Excel. So it was like you have to learn on the job. If you're a consultant, you are consulting for companies, you need to come up to speed very fast. And I'm sure those of you that are consultants here now, you understand what I'm saying. So I had to dump every other thing and focus more on requirements of the job. And that's how I got baptized into this field. Obviously, I started with Excel, and Excel made it easy to transition to other things because you have that background knowledge. And I would say that my Power BI journey generally started from Power Query. Right?
Wow.
Yes. My Power BI journey generally started from Power Query because even while you work on Excel, obviously you have to clean data, you have to prep data. And since my analysis started from Excel, of course, I naturally moved from Excel to Power Query next. And I remember that time, the very first Power Query task I had to solve was to consolidate 5 works of Excel that had 12 worksheets each, right? So 12 worksheets in each workbook. It was a client job as well. So I had to consolidate all that. I could have used Excel to do it, but my boss insisted that there is this new thing called Power Query. You must use it. I was checking online, no documentation, nothing. There was no documentation on how to do certain things. It was later on we started having books on Power Query, and we started having more clarity. As at that time, whenever I checked online to find a way to consolidate those 60 things, right, all I see is M codes, and I couldn't even implement anything in M codes. So, but somehow, if you knock for a while, because if there's someone inside the house, the door is going to be open. Knock and there's no one in the house, nobody's going to open the doors for you. So, but after knocking for a while, I was able to get through it without even documentation. And then that's winning spirit, and that's you know, the joy in solving a problem that you didn't find documentation for was the beginning, you know, my love for Power Query. And obviously when Power BI now came around and Power Query was a part of Power BI, it's just a matter of running a couple of transformations in Power BI, Power Query, and then load, and then visualization starts. So sometimes I just like to do the complex things. I like to the complex stuff.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that about you a lot. Like, I think when it comes to Power Query, if I say I should mention the top 3, at least your name always comes first. Like Ahmed Oyelowo. Just check Ahmed Oyelowo.
Sure. I can give you a
yeah, that's right. That's very cool. So the other question is,
yes.
So I say,
I say I can give you a list of 50 people, but it's okay.
But yours comes to mind, like when I talk about Power Query. So, okay, the second question is, what advice do you have for the younger ones in our community in general? They want to go into data analysis, Power BI, your Power Query, and the rest. What advice do you have for younger ones starting out here?
Okay, so my advice, I'm going to split it into 2. Currently, I'm being led by the Spirit to preach something new. And that something new is to tell everybody to keep on. You have to be very, very attentive. Whatever you are trying to learn, attention is extremely important. Now, in as much as attention is extremely important, there are 2 other factors that are also very relevant, but we always tend to ignore. Those 2 factors are trends and patterns. Trends and patterns. So when you become attentive, you must remember things that you have seen before. That's more or less like trends. And you must be able to apply those things to other situations, more or less like patterns. Now, if you think about what Michael just showed now, he actually explained that there is something we used to do in Excel. That's where trends and patterns come, and that's what's going to help you to become better. So he's borrowing something he has used in Excel before, and he's using it to solve the same case inside Power BI. Someone asks, is there a simpler way? I don't know a simpler way. Michael has experienced something like that in Excel and is able to provide a simpler solution. So 3 things you have to go with to develop yourself for anything is pay attention and always remember trends and patterns. So that's what I'm currently preaching now everywhere.
Okay. So, Ahmed, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. It was an honor having you again in our section. So, one more favor I'll ask. In the nearest future, if you invite to our session, will you like have time to come? Not anytime soon, but in the nearest future.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
A good friend of the house.
Yeah, sure. You're family, actually. You're family.
Yes.
Just to also chime, I know that you always have stuff always running around around the Power BI. I don't know if there's 3 o'clock this month, or you have a lot of many things you create. There's 3 o'clock. There is I know one bootcamp is maybe almost ending or so. But what are things that maybe people in the house can plug into that you have coming up soon, or that is still running?
Okay, so maybe I can use this platform to also share that very soon, either by the end of this month or by August, we're also going to start to run webinars once in a month. And the idea for the webinars is to be based on case studies, because realize that for people to have continuous development in their use of Power BI, it has to go beyond, downloading sample data sets here and there and using intuition. When someone gives you something to do and maps out an output for you, you see that it becomes more difficult for you to implement everything you have learned in training, except you sit down diligently and you take your time. So we want to create webinars now where you can have that once a month. It's going to be like 2 to 3 hours, and we're going to pick one case study that discuss, right? And we're going to solve case studies like that. So by the time you are able to attend a couple of those case study sessions, then you can very well improve your Power BI skills from whatever level friendlier, and it also helps us to share more insights. And guess what? We are also going to be seeing what trends and patterns, and that's where learning basically becomes better.
Oh, great. Is the platform up yet where people can sign up?
No, it's not up yet. I'm still going to have to talk to. I have to talk. Michael Olafusi to give me some guides on that.
Yeah, somebody, and I was like, who else do you have to talk to? I get the joke now. Okay, I will pass. So he's essentially saying that he will give me the link to give to us. That's what he's trying to say. Okay, I'll share with the house once you give me the link. So thanks a lot, and as usual, it's been a powerful session. That everything that you are doing, I was following like very, very well, because I like the way you summarize it, patterns. I was like thinking of this one, let me store it in my own shelf of patterns too. So thanks a lot, and we are very, very glad to have you again. And to everybody who has joined us, thank you once again. Sorry, Timidayo, that I'm almost taking interrupting.
No problem.
Okay, so thank you. And is it okay I end it right now, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so have a nice Sunday, everybody. Have a great week ahead. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Ahmed. Bye, Ahmed.